Here's Jesse. Hey, Jesse.
Hey, Joe, that was awesome. We found a Cretaceous we got to find out about tomorrow. I'm joining you on that trip to Costa Rica because that looks like what a place that was.
Absolutely. And there's Poppy. How you doing, buddy?
Hey! We found a Cretaceous we got to find out about the most enthusiastic man in the world. I'm so excited. That looks like what a place that was.
Absolutely. And there's Poppy. How you doing,
Hey!
Pablo?
How are you?
I'm great. Yourself? Man in the world.
Oh, Pablo, I think your YouTube might be on. Can you pause your YouTube?
Oh, I've killed mine. See, we're reverbing together. It's very exciting. Joe, while we're waiting for Poppy to get all ready here,
yeah,
I'll just note that you mentioned the fundraiser a few times, OSA Conservation. That's our second one today that we are featuring one of our charities. Hundreds of dollars came in amidst that session, both on GoFundMe and donate. So people got a chance to see what it looks like up in the canopy in Costa Rica, and we really appreciate you people helping us. From Ireland, I saw, UK, all sorts of amazing places. So
Pablo, I want to let you know right now, no pressure. You've got viewers in Tunisia, Spain, Portugal, Germany, the UK, Denmark, Singapore, Costa Rica, Canada, and the US. No pressure. You're joining us from Argentina.
Yeah.
It's a global event we have going on here.
No problem at all. I wish I was hanging on the trees like Andy and Ariana.
All right, I'm going to jump out. I'm going to leave the two of you to it. Have fun. Great to see you, Poppy, and I'm going to be tuning in online.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much. And I think, Poppy, what we'll do is we'll talk about penguins today, and next time we'll get you up in the forest, and you can talk about them from the canopy like Andy. But I am so excited to have you back. A couple weeks ago, we got a chance to host you with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants, and no one is more suited to sort of being the middle piece of our day here as we continue the Global Biodiversity Festival. Huge welcome to all our people tuning in from all around the world. And Poppy, are you ready to dive in? Can I do your introduction?
Yes, absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, I will also note that we had some penguin presentations earlier, and I know one of our scientists who was watching, he had to leave because his daughter wanted to listen to the Frozen soundtrack. So I think we might have to sing a little bit of Let It Go later today. We'll see how it goes, maybe halfway through. We'll talk about that. But in lieu of that, and to kick us off, the reason you guys are all here joining us from around the world is for Poppy Borboroglu. So he is the president and founder of the Global Penguin Society. Again, he's joining us all the way in Argentina, in Patagonia, one of the most rugged and beautiful places in the world. And today he is going to share with us his own huge love of penguins, why it's so important to conserve them, and what you can do to help from home. Without further ado, thanks for joining us, Poppy. Take us away.
Thank you so much, Jesse and Joe. It is fantastic to be part of this festival, and thanks everybody that is watching us to join, because this is the very first Global Biodiversity Festival, right? Yeah. So, and also thank you so much for the interest on the people on penguins and also on oceans. So the title of my talk today was The Penguins, why we can see them like as ocean conservation game changers. So to start my presentation, I'm gonna share my screen now and start talking about penguins. So you see the image there, and there we go.
All good to go. Just make it full screen, it'll be perfect.
There we go.
Perfect.
Excellent. So as I told you, I want to show you why penguins can be seen as a vehicle for integrated marine conservation. So when we talk about penguins, we know that people love them, right? But why is it? Why do we love penguins? Some people think that because of their tendency to waddle. Some other people think it's because they walk upright, just like people, just like us. But some other people identify with penguins because they are very devoted to their partners and also to their offspring. They have to make their living, they have to commute, to find food, and they have to share duties with their partners. But penguins yes.
Sorry to interrupt you, man. Your video is really loud, so we want to hear you over your video. It's beautiful, but it's so loud.
I like that. Is it better?
It's a little bit better. Still pretty loud.
Okay, so no worry. Enjoy the video, and we can jump into the next screen. So my point was, why do we love penguins? And the thing is that penguins are not only cute. Penguins are very important because they are one of the leaders species that can reflect the status and the conditions of the oceans and also the health of the coasts they live. So the oceans are very important because they provide the food, they provide the oxygen, and also they regulate the weather on the entire planet. But the oceans are in trouble, and so are the penguins. In fact, 55%, over half of the species of penguins, are considered threatened by Iucn. So let's see this into detail. There are 18 species of penguins. 5 of them are considered endangered. 5 others are listed as vulnerable. 3 are considered near threatened. And the last 5 are considered least concern. And let's meet the penguins. And I want to show you, since this is the Biodiversity Festival, I want to show you the diversity of penguins within the group. And there's a wide diversity. The biggest penguin of all is the emperor penguin. They can be tall as almost 4 feet tall. And the amazing things about these guys is that the males, they incubate the eggs in the winter in Antarctica, in the South Pole, with winds of up to 100 miles per hour and temperatures down to 60 degrees below zero Fahrenheit. And they are very famous because they've been featured in cartoons like Happy Feet and also the March of the Penguins. But there are other species also in Antarctica and also in subantarctic areas. And like, for example, these chinstrap penguins. Then you have others that are called Adelie penguins. They have been featured recently by Disney Nature on a movie called Penguins last year. And then we have another one called the Gentoo penguin. And these 3 plus the emperor are the ones that are more linked to Antarctic or environments with ice. But then we have a group of 7 species of penguins that are considered crested penguins because they have these amazing crests that you can see in this guy. The crests are made of feathers, colorful feathers, and they also have colorful eyes like this guy, and also bills and food. This is a northern Rockhopper penguin. They live in Tristan da Cunha on an island in the middle of the South Atlantic Ocean. And the smallest penguin is the little blue fairy penguin. They have only 1 foot tall, and they live in southern Australia and also in New Zealand. And if we take a look at the size of the populations, the rarest penguin species is the Galapagos penguin. The population is between 1,500 to 2,000 pairs. This is a very, very small and reduced population. And also the distribution is restricted because they only live in the Galapagos. So this is the tropical penguins because penguins live from Antarctica up to the tropics and only in the southern hemisphere. So in the last 30 years, penguins have been population status of penguins, 14 species of penguins have been moved to a more severe conservation status. And this is because penguins, they have particular characteristics that make them more vulnerable. For example, they lay only 1 or 2 eggs, and they take several months to raise their offspring. A king penguin, for example, it takes 15 months for a king penguin to raise 1 chick, which is a lot. Another feature of penguins is that they breed forming colonies. So they get together on colonies, and they are all concentrated in one area in one moment of the year. So that makes them more vulnerable to specific threats, like, for example, oil spills, because they can all be affected if an oil spill hits that coast that you can see, for example, in this picture. In addition, penguins swim hundreds and even thousands of kilometers during their lifetime. For example, a Magellanic penguin that lives here in Patagonia, where I am right now, they swim 10,000 miles per year. And we calculated that during their lifetime, because they live over 30 years, they swim the equivalent as going around the planet 12 times, just swimming. Imagine that. And I think that you will agree with me that the main characteristic of the penguins is that they don't fly. And at least the ones that do not practice hang gliding, like the ones that you can see in this cartoon. And not flying was a good thing 70 million years ago when they started to, the group of penguins started to thrive. But now not flying is a problem for them because they're more exposed to some new threats. So the problem also with the penguin is that they accumulate threats not only in the ocean, but also on land because they live in both environments. And as you can see, the characteristics that I described make penguins more sensitive to the alterations in their habitats. Particularly, climate change is one of the main ones. Climate change is affecting the pattern of ice formation and melting on in Antarctica, and that is also modifying the quality and also the availability of habitat that penguins need, not only to breathe, but also to feed. But climate change is not only affecting Antarctic penguins, it is affecting the penguins that live in temperate regions outside of Antarctica, because basically climate change is changing the availability of food, and the penguins need food to be close to the colonies when the chicks are small, especially, because adults have to swim and then come back. And if the food is far away, it takes longer for them. Another problem that has been reported with climate change is that there's been an increase in some regions in the severity and the frequency of some storms. These storms, with these storms, the chicks get wet, which is strange because you might think it's a penguin. Yes, but small chicks, the feathers of small chicks are not waterproof. They get the waterproof plumage, the feathers, when they are 2 months old, more or less. So the chicks get wet. These storms come with very strong and cold winds, so they die because they lose their body temperatures. And another problem in the ocean is the mismanagement of fisheries, because fisheries can compete with the food with the penguins. And another issue with fisheries is that sometimes penguins, they die because they get entangled in the fishing nets during the fishing operations, as you can see in this picture. Oil spills have killed thousands of penguins in 4 continents already. And it is one of the reasons that caused the decline of the African penguin. The African penguin population collapsed from over 1 million pairs 100 years ago to less than 20,000 pairs now. And oil spills have been one of the main reasons. But now the good news is that the impact of oil spill has been reduced, but now there is a new emerging issue linked to the pollution of plastics. This is a pristine, this is theoretically should be one of the most pristine areas on the world. This is Patagonia. This is one place where I live. And as you can see, it's full of plastic boxes. Those boxes come from the fisheries, that they throw these accidentally and sometimes on purpose. So this is an issue that there's a need to address. And this is one of the situations we normally find in our colonies. As you can see, this poor guy, he has a piece of a plastic bottle, water bottle, around his neck. And sometimes we find penguins nesting around plastics, the chicks surrounded by plastics. Sometimes there are reports of penguins eating pieces of plastics as well. So to address and help penguins cope with the main threats, we created an organization called the Global Penguin Society. This is organization, it works with the 18 species of penguins. And I want to show you this small clip video so you can see what we do.
Did you know that more than half of the species of penguins are considered threatened? They spend most of their lives swimming hundreds, even thousands of miles per year. They live in diverse habitats, from the cold ice of Antarctica and the South Pole to desert tropical coasts on the Galapagos Islands. Some of them even breed in the dense forests of New Zealand. Penguins are excellent indicators of the health and conditions of the oceans. They're warning us in their own language that the oceans are in trouble. Climate change, pollution, and the mismanagement of fisheries have a negative impact on them. Global Penguin Society promotes the conservation of all 18 species of penguins through science, management, and education. It assesses the conservation status of populations through scientific studies, works with governments to create protected areas, and educates communities so people will value conservation and maintain a healthy marine and coastal environment. You can be a part of saving these incredible creatures and the oceans they live in by supporting Global Penguin Society. It's time to listen to the penguins and commit to their conservation and the protection of the world's oceans.
Great. So as you could see in the video, we're working on science, management, and education. And we have different activities. And so far we have action in different ways in 16 countries, including Antarctica, also the countries in the Southern Hemisphere where penguins breed, and also countries in the Northern Hemisphere that have interest on penguin conservation and also research. So now I want to give you an example of a good conservation story. We are celebrating the creation, the 5th year anniversary of the creation of the Patagonia Azul, Blue Patagonia, UNESCO Biosphere Reserve. We were very honored to lead the creation of this reserve 5 years ago, working with the government of Argentina, the provinces, and also the town halls involved. The great thing is that so far it is the largest of this kind in our country. It has an area of almost 8 million acres. And the face of this reserve was the penguin. And we use the penguin to convince communities and also the governments about the need to create this area. This area includes 20 colonies of penguins and includes almost 40% of the global population of the Magellanic penguin, but also protects many other species, like 67 species of seabird, this endemic flightless duck, 65 other species of terrestrial birds, 31 species of terrestrial mammals, like cougars and different kinds of mammals that live here, over 30 species of marine mammals, like the southern right whale, and different species of dolphins. So this is a great example of how penguins can protect many big environments and many other species. And this is very important because the creation of protected areas or reserves can have a long-term impact because they're going to be here even after we die. So to wrap up my talk, I'm going to share with you a brief video that was presented last year, because last year we were very lucky and we obtained the Rolex Award for Enterprise. And this video summarizes more or less the activities that we do and tells also a nice story about a colony that we discovered and protected for over 10 years. There we go. Over half of the 18 species of penguins that exist in this planet are considered threatened. Penguins are very sensitive to all the alterations in their habitats. When the chicks, for example, are small, the food should be close to the colonies. But climate change is changing that, so they have to swim further. And by the time they come back, the chicks are dead. In the ocean, they are affected by marine pollution and fisheries. And when they come on land, they are affected by human disturbance and also the illegal traffic of penguins. I have a special connection with penguins for a long time. The first person that ever told me about something that was called a penguin was my grandmother, and that was very special for me. And then when I was 18 years old and I visited a big penguin colony for the first time, I felt that connection. So I realized that I wanted to make a change. The colony of Padmavathi is kind of special in our work of 30 years. We discovered this colony 10 years ago. It had only 6 pairs of nests. The place was a complete mess. So we decided to help address these major threats through science, management, and education activities. And now the colony is almost 1,900 pairs. At the beginning, we were working with the local kids because that's very important. But at some point, we decided that we needed to reach global community. We are reaching millions of kids from all over the planet, online, from one of the most remote places on Earth.
Work in science and education is very necessary to change the behavior of people. In the future, the children are the people that can do something to take care of the ocean and the penguins.
Our goal is to foster a conservation culture through the penguins. In terms of science, we will study 3 penguin species in New Zealand, in Chile, and in Argentina. In terms of management, we're going to work with governments, other NGOs, and landowners to promote the creation of marine national parks. So far, we were able to protect over 8 million acres of land and ocean. When you work through penguins and the international community, you can protect big environments and many other species that coexist with the penguins. It's about passion, it's about energy. You have to inspire people. So, as you could see in this presentation, penguins, they can have a key role in ocean conservation, not only because they are ecologically important, but also because people connect with them emotionally. Penguins can be used as a perfect tool to inspire major changes in the actions and in the choices and attitudes of decision makers, of businessmen, of entrepreneurs, and the international community. And penguins, the other thing is they can be, as I said, a vehicle for ocean conservation, and they can generate public interest that can catalyze political support to implement solutions. So that is why I say that penguins can be used as ocean conservation game changers. So with this, I am ready for all the questions, Jesse.
Poppy, as before, what an inspiring, amazing presentation. What beautiful animals, and your passion shines through the entire time. It's just fantastic. I do encourage people to check out Poppy's website, Global Penguin Society. You can learn so much more online. Check out those videos, get inspired to donate and do some great stuff. I want to start with a question on education. So that whole last video, you highlighted how important education is. You had your own personal experience going out to penguin colonies as a child. Can you share a personal experience where you had the chance to take kids that have otherwise never seen a penguin colony to see what their reactions were? Yeah.
So far, we started this program 12 years ago. So far, we have been able to take over 6,000 kids here. And 70% is our statistics. 70% of them, they've never been able to meet penguins. And the strange thing is that most of these kids, they live in the communities that are very near to the penguins. Some little towns here in Patagonia, they are half an hour drive far from the penguins. So, and it is also important because, you know, in Patagonia, you have big ranches, very big ranches. So some kids, they live in boarding schools, you know, but and also what I mean is that there are very few towns, and in those towns there is a school. So the kids that belong to the families that live far away, they live in those towns. So we take them also to visit the penguins. And sometimes there are kids that they have been, have been taken away by the justice from the parents because they are social risk. So they also live there, and we take them to see the penguins. So it's like a very big gift. And believe me, Jesse, this is my favorite, one of my favorite activities during the year. And of course, we started 12 years ago. Some of those kids are over 20 years old now. So I think that it is very important in the long run to do these trips. And some of these trips, they became the promotion tours for the schools, so that they became something very, very special.
Those connections with nature are such an integral part of what we're trying to highlight with the Global Biodiversity Festival. It's something that we've seen in so many of our presentations where kids that came when they're very young get inspired by these individual interactions with nature, and they end up being volunteers, interns, top staff members working around the world to spread that message of conservation. I will do a brief plug on that note. I mean, in your backyard, you have penguins, and unfortunately here in Toronto, I don't have any penguins in my backyard except at the Toronto Zoo. But what we're doing over this entire festival over the weekend is highlighting backyard bio. So we're encouraging people all over the world. And again, over 90 countries now, I think, have tuned in to view these programs over the last day and a half. So share pictures of the creatures, wildlife, wild places that are in your backyards with #backyardbio. We'd love to see those and see what inspires you. And even if it's not penguins, we want to get you excited about wildlife as much as Poppy is, because that is the goal that we're all aiming to. You are the benchmark we are aiming for in animal enthusiasm. So a question we got online from one of our people in Slido was, can you speak to your penguin education initiatives in the time of COVID? Right now, things are obviously a little different in the world. How are you keeping people engaged with what you're doing?
Amazing. So the good news for us is that for a couple of years now, we were working with the local kids, but we realized, as we mentioned in one of the videos, that we wanted to reach a global audience. So a key thing was working with you, with big guns, transmitting, because I take the satellite antenna that you give me, I go to the penguin remote colony without any kind of connection. And sometimes we have 5,000 kids online, talking to us. I can show the eggs, the seed, the penguin chicks. So it is important to reach massive audiences of kids, because I think that the key goal, if I have to summarize in one word, my goal is to foster a conservation culture. Yeah. So when I was 10 years old, of course, my grandmother used to tell me about penguins. But when I was young, the environment was not a deal. Nobody was talking to me about the environment. Now the new generations, they have the environment in their DNA. And they don't need to be a biologist to do something in terms of conservation. You can be an engineer, you can be a painter, you can be whatever you want. But you have a key, everybody has a key role in terms of conservation. And the fantastic news is that it's not that we are training the next generations. Kids are conservationists right now.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
It's something we've talked about in so many of our presentations, that it's the generation of like 16 and younger people that are leading marches of 1 million people around the world. Like, these things are so obvious. The need to conserve is so obvious to the younger generation that it's really inspiring and exciting. And again, this is why we love doing digital education from around the world. My heroes were Steve Irwin and David Attenborough as a kid. And this program and things like the BioFest and other great organizations that are doing this work enable people to meet their heroes, interact with them, share questions, get involved, engage, see a penguin colony live on screen. And that is, just the most enriching experience I can.
Yeah, so answering briefly your question is like, yeah, we're organizing a kids art contest. So they have to draw penguins. We, of course, all these webinars and live talks, and also sharing a lot of material, because we have lots of material. And the key thing is that the way we live right now, our cultural evolution, we have been moved away from nature, and we have to remember that we are animals. COVID is teaching us again that we are animals. So we need nature because it's a medicine. If we are away from nature, we will develop health and, different kinds of sickness for our mind and our bodies. So that's why it's very important what you said. Go to your backyard, connect to your tree, to your bird, connect to the bees in your flowers, because that will make your life better.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, certainly when I'm done this program, I know Paul Rose is waiting in the waiting room. So I'm going to bring in Paul as our host for our next program. While we're waiting, I'm going to be going out to my backyard in a little bit to check out bees and birds and everything you just mentioned. And I'm sure, I know Paul was yesterday. Paul shared all sorts of great videos last night from his backyard. So we're excited to have him in soon to be hosting our next program. Before we wrap up though, Poppy, I just want to ask one more question, which is if I'm at home in Toronto or in Tunisia or Ireland or Australia, what can I do right now to help protect penguins?
So there are many things. You don't need to have penguins near you if you want to protect them. And the key things and the basic things is the world is completely connected through the air, the atmosphere, and also through the oceans. Yeah. And so whatever you do today can change the world. Do not waste anything. Do not waste clothes or food or energy, because the production cost or anything, it has a cost, it has a price for the planet. So whatever you do today can change the world, because we are almost 8 billion people on this planet. So you can make the difference. And as I always say, there's a conservation hero inside of you. Wake him up. Wake him up. He's there.
They're woken. Even on 4 hours of sleep, I am awake. Now we get Joe awake too. I think Paul got a little bit of sleep in there. Poppy, this has been fantastic as always. Thank you so much for joining us, sharing your passion for penguins. I encourage everyone to check out the site, learn more, donate, and take part with Backyard Bio. Poppy, oh, we got a chance to see Steve. Steve the penguin.
Steve is here.
Steve is here. I'm so happy. Paul, you didn't know you were going to be coming in to see Steve. You just thought it was going to be Poppy before Marco comes in, but there you go.
Well, I know Pablo, but I've never met Steve, so it's even better. Thank you, buddy. Very nice to meet him and to see you again, man.
Pleasure. Well, I'll head out for now, Poppy. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll